Hi everyone, how you doing? This is Tony Gentilcore at TonyGentilcore.com here at Crescent Performance. And today I want to talk about the whole concept of get long and get strong. A lot of people talk about in terms of the lower body extremity like hip flexor length and maybe even adductors, but there's always very little talk on upper body extremity. And today I want to talk a little bit about cable row technique, but how that pec minor can play into that and how that's a zone of conversion. So when we talk about the pec minor, that it's in a pretty dense area in that coracoid process. So we have the pec minor, short head of the bicep, and the coracoid brachialis, and they all meet on one spot in that coracoid process, and it's a very fibrotic, dense area that we need to kind of loosen up and then work on getting length of that tissue, and then we're going to cement that with a proper strength training technique. So with that pec minor, what we want to do is we're going to take over here on the wall, we're going to get into that tissue, and we're going to try to break it up. Now, ideally what we want to do is probably get a really good manual therapist, massage therapist, to really get his or her fingers deep in there, because that's a pretty tricky area. But even with a lacrosse ball or a baseball, or this is a batting practice ball, you want to get right up against that wall, and we're going to get right in there. There's really no rhyme or reason. We're just trying to break up that tissue and try to get that nasty stuff out of there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to lengthen that tissue now. Now the pec minor is a pretty important muscle, because what it's going to do is when it's tight, it's going to anteriorly tilt that scapula, and it's going to kind of bring the shoulder blades forward and into a posture that we don't ideally want. So what we're going to do is try to get down here on the floor, and now we're going to lengthen that tissue that we just broke up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rest my head on one foam roller and rest my knee on the other. Now why I'm doing that is I don't want to go into excessive lumbar rotation. So if I didn't have this foam roller, what's going to happen is I'm going to go into lumbar rotation and really tweak on that lower back, and we don't want to do that. So here, I'm going to rest my knee on here, bring one arm up, we're going to work that right side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I'm going to use supination to drive that posterior tilt of the scapula and try to get length in that area. I'm going to be here, supinate, try to really get that length, and not let my arms splay out. So a lot of times if I'm coaching somebody doing this, I'm going to stand right beside them and tell them not to hit me. And I'm going to be here, bam. We're just going to work on lengthening that tissue. Now if that's a problem for people, if their shoulder's really pissed off, we can do a little less aggravated motion. We go internal, external rotation, and the same thing. So I'm trying to keep the arm nice and straight, and really trying to lengthen that tissue. And again, I'm using that supination to drive that posterior tilt of the scapula and try to really stretch out that pec minor. So I might do 10 reps here and 10 reps here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use strength training to try to cement that good motor pattern. So with that, one exercise I like to do is a standing cable row. And this is an exercise, while it's simple, I see butchered a lot. So whether it's a standing cable row or a standing cable row, maybe a seated cable row, you see a lot of people and they're going to be rowing like that. So again, because that pec minor is so tight, they're in more of an anterior scapular tilt. And they're here, and they're getting a lot of anterior instability in that shoulder. We want to try to prevent that as much as possible. So what I like to do is tell people to get a nice athletic position, keep that chest tall, and if I have to, Sean, you may want to get around me a little bit, is to tell them to kind of cue themselves to put that finger below that scapula, and they're going to feel it kind of pinch themselves. And I'm going to keep that chest tall and try to pinch my finger. And really what I'm trying to do is maybe drive that scapula towards the opposite hip. So a good cue would be to tell them to row, not to go past here. Again, we want to prevent that anterior tilt and get that anterior instability. We want to prevent that. I want them to keep that chest tall and drive that elbow right to that hip, trying to pinch the scapula towards the opposite hip. So if we're looking at it from behind, without me cueing myself, it's going to look just like that. Bam. Again, we're trying not to go way back here. I don't want any forward head posture. I want that chest tall. And I'm just trying to pinch that shoulder blade. So once we've done that, now, like I said, the strength training is going to cement that new motor pattern. And that's what we want to try to do. So again, we're getting long, and then we're going to get strong. And that's it for today.